All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday morning, March the 4th, 2025. Sorry, I'm trying to do multiple things at once here. And it's good to be together this morning. We are going to continue in our Torah portion. This week we are in a Torah portion called Tetzaveh, which we'll get into here in just a moment. Just want to remind everyone, if you're watching on YouTube, just be sure to click the little thumbs up, if you would. Click like and share and all that good stuff. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Thank you again for your faithfulness in giving. Your giving makes a big difference. And so thank you so much. I do want to share with you something that we've begun doing. Within the Assemblies of God, we have what's called the National Jewish Fellowship. And so we have, across the Assemblies of God, we have what are called schools of ministry that are associated with different districts, so that if someone feels called to full-time ministry, that you don't have to necessarily go to Bible college, as it were, you want to begin to prepare in that calling. You're not, 19 years old and able to go to college at this season. Well, schools of ministry are ways that our different districts throughout the nation want to make training available for people who desire that. So what we're able to do within the National Jewish Fellowship is to have a school of ministry with classes. It's a one class per month, and that way if someone is seeking, wanting to get their credentialing and so forth over a period of time, they can do that. And so we are able to do that with Jewish ministry courses, or to have courses that are going to be specifically focused on equipping people to prepare, train, equip, mobilize us to do to bring Yeshua to our Jewish people. So we've begun working with others to record those courses, and so Dr. Ray Gannon, who's the National Director of Jewish Ministry in the Assemblies of God, is recording courses with us. Dr. Bill Buracher, who got his PhD at William Fuller, at Fuller Seminary, and then lived in Israel and ministered there, and then ministered in the States here for a number of years. He and I worked on recording a course yesterday that he's teaching. So we're going to be having these courses eventually available, and we'll have them now. They're going to be available at a negligible cost. Relatively speaking, but it's worth investing in. And so I wanted to just let you know that, and it's exciting. Just more, we want to do more and more to train, equip, mobilize all of us to be disciples who make disciples, to make Yeshua known to the 7.5 million Jewish Americans, most of whom don't know Yeshua, and have gotten a gross misrepresentation of who he is so often when people come in his name. And so we want to bring the truth of who he is in a way that can be heard and understood and encountered and experienced in us and through us. So, all right, well, this morning, again, we're back in our Torah portion. We are this week in Tetzaveh, which begins at the end of the last couple verses of Exodus 27, and then takes us through chapters 28 and 29 into chapter 30. And so the title of today's Daily Manna is An Eternal Flame, Light Unceasing. We're just going to be really focused on just those few verses at the end of chapter 27. So through in the previous, in Terumah, chapters 25, 26, and 27, we've been focused on the building or the contributions being brought for the making of the tabernacle, for the making of the mikdash, the holy place, the place where God will dwell in our midst. And now the focus this week in Tetzaveh has more to do with, in particular, the high priest, but the priestly family, those who are serving in the mikdash, those who are serving not just in the holy place, but in the high priest in the most holy place. And so that's where the focus will be. But this little portion at the end of chapter 27 is kind of an intermediary, because it has to do with the tabernacle, with something in the tabernacle, particularly with the menorah, with the light for the menorah. But and then it will begin with the vestments, with the garments. Excuse me, are you hearing a beeping? Is that my imagination? Is there a beeping you're hearing? I'm hearing a beeping somewhere. Anyway, huh? All right. Sorry, I'm hearing a little beep. I don't know if you guys are hearing it, but it's like beep, beep. Anyway. Was that it? What was that? Oh. Okay, sorry. Well, it's bugging me. Sorry, everybody. So the focus this week, so Tetzaveh means command. It's you will command, and so it's addressed to Moses here. Here's what you're going to command Aaron and his sons. You're to tell Aaron and his sons this. But this is actually, in fact, this is the only parsha from the time Moses is born in the beginning of Exodus through the end of the book of Numbers, so Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, that does not contain Moses' name, right? So he's not actually mentioned. He's spoken to on multiple occasions, 3 different occasions. It's being spoken to Moses, but it's not about Moses here. The focus here is particularly upon Aaron and his sons, and in particular their garments or their vestments. So let's read verse 20. He says, and you yourself are to command the children of Israel that they are to bring to you pure olive oil, beaten for the light, to cause a lamp to burn continually, ner tamid, to exalt a lamp continually. So not only do the children of Israel provide the gifts and materials necessary for the tabernacle, the building of the tabernacle, but they also now are to supply the olive oil that's necessary to keep the lamps of the menorah burning through the night hours. So while the other items, right? The other items, when you've brought your gold or you've brought whatever, the goat skins and the seal skins and your silver and your bronze, those things, those were one-time contributions, right? Those things are made, they're assembled, they're costly, but they're assembled, and then they're there. This, the giving of the oil, the provision of the oil, the contribution of the oil for the light in the holy place is ongoing. This is to be continually, because it's the light that is to be continually lit in the temple. And not just any kind of oil will do. This is, so the word for oil is shemen. It has to do with a smearing, but and so it's oil from the olive that is pure or beaten. So oil extracted from olives is specified because there were a lot of different oils that were used at the time in the ancient Near East. You had oils from different seeds and flaxes. You had oils from animal fats, but those were much. They weren't pure oil. They made a lot more smoke. The oil used for the tabernacle lamps had to be Zech. It had to be clear, pure. That it's refined so that it's free of residues. And so the way you would get the oil like that is they would pound the olives in like a mortar with a pestle, rather than by grinding them in a mill. And so it's beaten It's ground up, and the oil was then passed through a strainer or through some sort of cloth that would strain it so that it would all of the residue would be kept out. So this category of Zech oil, of pure oil, in the Bible is used specifically, exclusively for the lamp, for the light, the menorah, and the tabernacle. And it says this lamp was to stay ner tamid, was to be lit continually. So let's read verse 21. And which will eventually, I don't have it up today, but we'll eventually put up a picture of sort of a map of what the layout of the tabernacle, of the tent of the tabernacle. But we read in verse 21, in the tent. And so this lamp is going to be just outside the most holy place. So it's on the outside of the curtain. In the tent of meeting, Ohel Moed, in the tent of meeting, outside the curtain, and it literally says from the outside to the veil. That's actually how it's described in Hebrew. It says in the tent of meeting, in the Ohel Moed, from the outside, or from almost like from the street or from the entry to the veil, which is the veil which is before the testimony, before the witness, which speaking of the ark. Aaron and his sons will set it in order, will arrange it to burn from evening to morning before Adonai. It will be a statute forever throughout their generations on behalf of Bnei Yisrael, for the sons, for the children of Israel. So this phrase Ohel Moed is the first time in the Tanakh, in the Hebrew Scriptures, that we see the phrase tent of meeting, Ohel Moed. So Moed is an appointment. It's a meeting. Tent of meeting. It's the tent where we meet. So when we talk about even our high holy days, when we talk about Yom Teruah, talk about Yom Kippur, Sukkot, these are called the Moedim. The Moedim. These are the meetings. These are the appointments. The Moedim is when we meet with the Lord. So that's all of these things are pointing to us meeting with Him. And so this is the tent of meeting, the place, and it's mobile. It's the place where we meet with our God. And again, all of what's being described here is literal. There are literal instructions. And we do talk about, and I'll make mention at times how the Lord is giving very specific, detailed instructions. But even when you go into those very specific, detailed instructions, there's still, what we'll see is there's still room for, there's still room for a variation. There's room, there are the specific things He points to, but there's still some room for some even creativity. So that's why later and throughout here, the Lord will say to appoint skillful men, or and the word for skillful has to do with wisdom. We'll talk about that later. And later we'll actually see that there were men that were anointed, like of the Spirit with these skills. And so these things are being done the way things are being constructed, the 7 stems, but it can of the menorah, but it can be designed in a particular way, right? So there is some of that where the Lord leaves that kind of contribution at work. But all of this these are literal instructions. But again, I'm going to repeat this multiple times because so that we grasp it. These are the Lord tells stories. He teaches by story, and he brings us in to understand, to grasp. He's the great communicator, to grasp the heart of what he's wanting to us to understand. And so that even in the instructions or in the picture he's painting, right, there's an artistry to what he's describing. He's painting a picture that tells a story. We read in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 2, it says, for a tent in the outer part, a tent was prepared. In the outer part were the menorah. So we see it points to the menorah, the table, and the presentation of the bread. This is for our relationship, for our fellowship. This is called the holy place. Verse 3, beyond the second curtain, so there's the first curtain into the holy place where these things are, and then beyond that was a tent, a dwelling, called the Holy of Holies. It held a golden altar of incense, and the Ark of the Covenant completely covered with gold. In the Ark was a golden jar holding the manna, Aaron's rod that budded, and the tablets of the covenant. And above it, cherubim of glory overshadowing the mercy seat. But it's not possible to speak in detail about these things. Verse 6, now with these things prepared this way, the priests, the Kohanim, do continually enter the outer tent while completing the services. So this portion where the light is, where the bread is, they do continually go in and out of here. But that innermost tent, he says, verse 7, but into the inner tent once a year, only the high priest, only the Kohen Gadol goes. And he doesn't go without blood, which he offers for himself for the unintentional sins of the people. Verse 8, by this, the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, makes clear that the way into the Holy has not yet been revealed while the first tent is still standing. And this is the key part. He says it is a symbol. Now, and I put it on the screen so you can see it is a parable for the present time. In Greek, it's the Holy Spirit gave the writer of Hebrews this word, parable, paraboli, which is translated parable in the Gospels. You know, it doesn't say that Yeshua told a symbol. It says he told a parable. And this is a parable. That is a living parable. It is a physical parable pointing to something. So again, verse 21 of Exodus 27, in the tent of meeting outside the curtain, which is before the testimony, Aaron and his sons will set it in order. They will arrange it to burn from evening to morning before Adonai. It will be a statute forever throughout their generations on behalf of the children of Israel. Now, this command is given later again in Leviticus 24. It's reiterated, verses 2 through 4. It says, order the children of Israel to bring you pure olive oil beaten for light, to keep a lamp burning continually. Outside of the curtain of the testimony in the tent of meeting, Aaron is to keep it in order from evening to morning before Adonai continually. It is to be a statute forever throughout your generations. He is to keep the lamps in order on the pure gold menorah before Adonai continually. So, since this tent in our midst was a symbolic, it's the dwelling place of Adonai. It's where he's chosen to dwell in the midst of his people. It wouldn't for the Israelites, in their own tents, they kept lamps lit during evening hours. So the Lord gets a lamp in his tent. However, when you go to bed at night, you extinguish your lamp, right? You extinguish the lamp, except maybe the last one, which the person, like at night, you turn off all the lights, except whoever goes to bed last maybe has their light on, and then they turn their light off. And then all the lamps, when everyone goes to sleep, all the lamps are out, right? But the Lord's is to burn continually. The Lord's is to burn. He doesn't sleep. So his never goes out. There's to always be a light in there, which gives us this understanding, this picture that he is ever available. He is ever present. He is there. He is awake. He is your keeper while you sleep. He's not sleeping. While you feel vulnerable, you're not vulnerable because he doesn't sleep. Psalm 121 illustrates this, expresses this. Verses 4 and 5 says, behold, look, the keeper of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. So, I'm kind of a classic dad in so many ways. I do the stereotypical thing that my dad did and that my sons will do, and that's sometimes when I'm tired or I'm watching something with them, I'll get caught in a blink, and that's me slumbering a little bit, kind of nodding off, and I blink and don't recover. Well, he doesn't blink. He doesn't slumber. He doesn't blink and not recover. He doesn't sleep. And in case you're wondering who the keeper of Israel is, verse 5 makes it clear Adonai is your keeper. Adonai is your shadow at your right hand. Right? Like, if you're wondering where this shadow is, where's this coming from? It's because he is over me. Right? So this light is important. Aaron and his sons had this solemn duty assigned to them, right? That they were to make sure there was always enough oil, and so they were to command him to receive from the people enough oil in the tabernacle so that there's adequate oil to keep the lamps burning all the time. This is a lasting ordinance. This is an everlasting command, right? There are multiple times where we see that language. And, the question could be asked even today. If this is an everlasting command, how is it fulfilled today? How is it fulfilled among the Jewish people? Well, you say, well, where is the tabernacle? Where is the tent of meeting? Well, during the exile in Babylon, the synagogue structure was established, and so we don't have it. There's not a temple, but there are synagogues scattered, and in each synagogue, the place where the Torah is kept is called the Ark, right? That structure, that cabinet that holds the Torah, is the Ark, and since antiquity, an eternal light, a light to continually be lit, has been placed in front of the Holy Ark in synagogues. So so that the builders take seriously the injunction that this is to be performed for all time throughout all the ages. But the question is does that fulfill? There's so much that we'll see here that's all illustrated that we will, as we go into the instructions about the atonement and the sacrificial system that is all to be being done. There's a recognition that all of these things are not done in the way that they were originally laid out to do. So why is, are we keeping this perpetual for all time throughout the ages command? Now, what we can understand, how do we meet with God? If there is no most holy place, how do we meet with God? And again, we pointed out last week that we understand that the Lord is pointing towards something, that even to the point where the only place that you see the cherubim is in the over the ark, and it was also the only place we saw it was in Genesis that was guarding the way into the Garden of Eden. So this place of meeting with God that's where we see the cherubim, and in the ark are the testimony, the covenant of the testimony, the tablets of the testimony. And in Jeremiah 31, the Lord says, I'm going to make a new covenant with you. Right? I'm going to write my Torah on your heart so that the dwelling place with God is among men. He will dwell in our midst, God with us. And so all of this, even all of the Moedim, the meeting with God, is all fully fulfilled. The symbolism is fully fulfilled in Yeshua. The symbolism that seeks in our synagogues, that seeks to replicate the instructions here, is fulfilled in Yeshua. In Isaiah 42, we read this. It says, "Look, behold my servant whom I uphold, my chosen one, in whom my soul delights. I have put my ruach on him. He will bring justice to the nations." He will bring justice. He will not cry out or raise his voice or make his voice heard in the street. A bruised reed he will not break, The smoldering wick he will not snuff out. Right? There's a gentleness, there's a compassion that's expressed here that expresses the heart of God. He will faithfully bring forth justice. He will not be disheartened or crushed until he establishes justice on the earth. The islands, or the ends of the earth, the coastlands, will wait for his instruction, for his Torah. Thus says God, Adonai, who created the heavens and stretched them out, who spread out the earth and what comes from it, who gives breath to the people on it, and ruach, spirit to those, breath to the ruach to those who walk in it. He says, I, Adonai, Ani Adonai, I myself, Adonai, called you in righteousness. I will take hold of your hand. I will keep you and give you as a covenant to the people, as a light to the nations. Right? So we see here, and then as we've gone through Isaiah, but we see here, this initially is pointing to Israel as a covenant to the nations, as a light to the nations. But ultimately, when we go on in Isaiah 49, we see that this servant is also, it's too small of a thing just to bring back the ones of Israel. He is a covenant to the nations. And so here it's all fulfilled in Yeshua, in this replica. This is a parable. It's a picture of a reality, of a heavenly reality, a typological, a parabolic symbolism that is a deep mine of truth. There's so much richness in here, and it's pointing to the heavenly dwelling. It's in Zechariah 4. We see the menorah in the presence of the Lord. This is Zechariah 4 is after the exile. Temple's been destroyed. Temple's now being rebuilt. There's difficulty. It's a big task to building the temple, to building the dwelling of God. And so Zechariah gets a prophetic vision. I'll read quickly through this. Now, we've gone through, just so you know, if you ever want to go through, we have full teachings on Zechariah 4, on Isaiah 42, on Isaiah 49 that you can go and watch and kind of go through those. We went through those verse by verse. And ultimately we see at the beginning of Revelation that the people of God, that Yeshua is in the midst of the menorah, in the midst of the seven candlesticks, which are the fullness of the people of God, that we are the light of the world. Zechariah 4, the angel who had been speaking with me returned, woke me like a man who was wakened from his sleep. He asked me, "What do you see?" I replied, "Behold, I see a solid gold menorah with its bowl at the top of it, and its 7 lamps on it, with 7 pipes for the lamps that are on the top of it." He says, verse 3, also 2 olive trees are by it, one on the right side of the bowl, the other on the left side of it. Right? And so here you have 2 olive trees. And so here that we saw the children of Israel were to be the ones continually bringing the oil, beating it for the light, making the pure oil. But here in the heavenly, the lampstand is being fueled by these 2 trees. So the lampstand, the heavenly lampstand, doesn't require human effort to ensure a continual supply of oil. So we have that imagery here of an oil that is continually keeping the light lit. I responded by saying to the angel speaking with me, "What are these, my Lord?" Verse 5, the angel who spoke with me responded by asking me, "You don't know what these are?" I said, "No, I don't know what they are." And now when you get to verse 6, it says, "What are these?" And he answers not with an exact answer, but with an oracle, with an exhortation of deep significance, a very familiar passage to us. Because he says, "I want you to see this picture. I want you to grasp what this picture is saying. You see the 7, you see the menorah, you see the 2 olive trees. This is the word of Adonai to Zerubbabel, saying, not by might, it's not in your chayil, it's not in your power, or not by your might, your strength. It's not by power, it's not by your own capacity, but by my ruach, says Adonai Tetzaveh. He says, what's the lampstand? What are these olive trees? What's going on here? I don't know. He says, what's being built here is the foundation that's being laid, the place where the light of God's presence is to shine continually. And that's not fueled by human valor or strength, not by koach, right, by capacity, but by ruach, by my spirit. This is the focal point of the whole vision here, right? So that even in what we're providing when the Lord gives us the initial picture, this is ongoing. The lamp is supposed to stay continually lit. And that requires, it's not one and done. There's an ongoing contribution, but what we end up seeing is that human sources, human wisdom, human strength fails. And so here he's saying, you can have all the resources you want, but unless except by my spirit, it's not going to happen what you're wanting to do. It's not going to happen. My spirit is the one driving all of this. Verse 7, what are you? Psalm 127:1 says, unless the Lord builds the house, unless Adonai builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless Adonai watches over the city, the watchman's wasting his time, stands guard in vain. So he's looking at this task in front of him, Zerubbabel. He says, what are you, great mountain, before Zerubbabel? This pile of rocks, this pile of rubble that has to be now assembled into the new temple. He says, before Zerubbabel you will become a plain. He will bring out the capstone with shouts of chen, favor, grace to it. Again, the word, and so my point coming here is that we have this imagery that the prophet brings that shows that all along this was pointing to something more. And of the failure of our capacity, it's not by might, it's not by power, but it's by his spirit. And again, the word of the Lord came to me saying, the hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundation of this house. He will also finish it. Then you will know that Adonai Tetzaveh has sent me to you. For who despises the day of small things? These 7, which are the eyes of Adonai that run back and forth throughout the whole earth, will rejoice when they see the plumb line in Zerubbabel's hand. So you even then get this imagery that the picture of the 7 lights is the fullness of the light, the eyes of the Lord. The springs is the springs of Adonai, the eyes of Adonai that go back and forth throughout the earth that he sees. Well, I responded, verse 11, by saying, well, what about the olive trees on the right hand and left of the menorah? What are these 2 olive branches, verse 12, beside the 2 golden pipes that empty the golden oil out of them? Right? He goes on, and then he said to me, you don't know what these are? I said, no, I don't know what they are. That's like why I'm asking the question. I don't know what they are. Except he said it much more respectfully than that. So he said, these are the 2 anointed ones, or it says children of the fresh oil, who are standing by the Lord of the whole earth. Right? It uses this word yitzar, fresh oil. It has to do with the very fresh oil that comes out of the wine presses. The sons of new oil is the language. The 2 who are there are the sons of new oil. So you have, and again, we've gone through this before, but you have the richness of what God has called us to be. Yeshua said in Matthew chapter 5, look, a city on a hill cannot be hidden. You're the light of the world. You're the light of the world. Well, how can that be true? Look how we've failed. Right? But the answer is not in how do we stay lit? Right? That the Lord provides the oil. His Spirit provides the oil. Here now we are to contribute. So we're getting this picture, though, of this light, of our call to be a light to the nations, of being the light of the world, but not in our own strength, but in the midst of his presence, in the place where he dwells. There's the to plumb the depths of what the Lord is showing us and communicating us to here is more than we can ever begin to do in such a short period of time. But the light is to stay lit. How are you and I going to stay lit? How are we going to be an eternal flame, light unceasing? Well, not by might, not by capacity, not by ruach, by koach, but by ruach, by my Spirit, says the Lord. And so this morning and today, as you go through your day and this week, it's not about what you can do in your own strength. You and I are to shine. We're to be a light. But if we're trying to do so in our own capacity, it'll be like what we see at Hanukkah. It was out. But when we bring what we have, we bring all that we can bring before the Lord. He will supply. It's not by might. It's not by power. It's by His ruach. It's by His Spirit. So let His Spirit refresh you today and renew you so that you and I can shine, so that we can be a light to the nations, that we can be a light to our neighborhood, we can be a light to our workplace, that we can be a light to the nation around us, to our community, that we can shine forth His light, reflect His Spirit. Amen? All right, well, good morning to everybody. Just a quick hello to Joshua and Ron and Amy and to Kathleen and to Sonia and Margarita and James. Good morning, my friend. How you doing, James? And to Kelly and Melody Woods, and to the Eddies, to Lauren and Mike and Levi and Valor and Haven and Everett and little Felix, and to Pastor and Sister Martinez and Elizabeth and Jesse, and good morning to Charlene and Jason and Ashley, and let's see here, and to the Barbara and to right now. But if you haven't downloaded the app, be sure to download the app. And I know if you're watching on the app, that's often why we don't see there's not as much people that are chatting on the app, because most everyone on the live, when we're live, to be on YouTube is usually probably where most everyone is. Please, again, be sure to hit that thumbs up. If you would just take a moment today and hit the thumbs up, and then let's go shine. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. Shalom, shalom. Have a beautiful day.